Captain Jake Morrison had seen his share of strange requests during his 15 years as an independent engineer. But the message waiting in his ship's communication array took the prize for most unusual. The transmission came through on an encrypted military frequency he definitely wasn't supposed to have access to from a research station that officially didn't exist. "This is Dr. Zena Calith of Research Station Nexus 7. The voice was unmistakably feminine, with the melodic accent common. "To the Zarian species, I require immediate assistance with a quantum field malfunction. Discretion is absolutely essential. Standard repair rates plus hazard pay. Please respond if you can reach coordinates 847.3 by 221.8 within the next solar cycle." Jake leaned back in his pilot's chair, studying the star charts. Nexus 7 was deep in neutral space, technically outside any government jurisdiction. The kind of place where scientists went to conduct research that might make various galactic authorities nervous. The hazard pay mention definitely caught his attention, especially since his ship's fuel reserves were running dangerously low. "Well, Rusty," he said to his battered cargo hauler, patting the console affectionately, "looks like we're taking another interesting job." The journey to Nexus 7 took 18 hours through 3 different hyperspace jumps. As Jake approached, the coordinates, what emerged from the cosmic dust, wasn't what he'd expected. Instead of a typical research platform, Ixu 7 looked like someone had crossed a luxury resort with a high-tech laboratory. Gleaming spires twisted upward from a central hub, connected by tubes of transparent aluminum that pulsed with soft, multicolored light. Nexus 7 Control. "This is Captain Morrison responding to Dr. Calith's maintenance request." Jake transmitted as he guided his ship toward the docking bay. "Captain Morrison, thank the stars you came." Dr. Calith's voice crackled through the cum with obvious relief. "Base 7 is open for you. I'll meet you at the airlock." Jake had worked with dozens of alien species over the years, but he'd never met a Zarian in person. As the airlock cycled and he stepped onto the station, his first glimpse of Dr. Zena Calith made him forget whatever he'd been planning to say. She stood about his height, the characteristic silver-blue skin of her people, but where most Zarians he'd seen in holovids appeared almost ethereal. Zena had a solid, grounded presence. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail. She wore a standard research jumpsuit that somehow managed to look elegant on her curved frame. But it was her eyes that really caught him off guard. Instead of the typical pale blue of her species, hers were a warm amber that seemed to glow with their own inner light. "Captain Morrison," she said, extending her hand in the human fashion of greeting. "Thank you for coming so quickly." "Just Jake is fine," he replied, shaking her hand and trying not to notice how warm her skin felt. "So what kind of quantum field malfunction are we dealing with? Power fluctuations? Containment? Issues?" Zena's expression grew troubled, and she glanced around the empty corridor as if making sure they weren't overheard. "It's complicated. Perhaps we should discuss this in my laboratory where we can speak more privately." As she led him through the station's winding corridors, Jake found himself studying her movements. There was something different about the way she walked, a careful precision, as if she were concentrating on each step. The few other researchers they passed nodded respectfully to Zena, but kept their distance. He noticed. "Beautiful station," Jake commented, admiring the artistic way the walls seemed to flow like water frozen in motion. "How many people work here?" 37 currently, Zena replied. "We focus on experimental physics, specifically quantum field applications for biological enhancement."
Ow.
"The work requires significant privacy and security clearances." Enhancement. That sounds like it could get controversial pretty quick. Zena paused at a sealed door marked with symbols Jake couldn't read. That's exactly why discretion is so important. "Jake, what I'm about to show you could change interspecies relations forever, or it could get us all imprisoned if the wrong people learn about it." She pressed her palm to a scanner and the door slid open to reveal a laboratory that looked like something out of a dream. Holographic displays showed complex molecular structures rotating slowly in midair, while banks of monitoring equipment hummed quietly along the walls. In the center of the room stood a cylindrical chamber filled with what looked like liquid starlight. My quantum enhancement field, Zena said with obvious pride. 3 years of research have gone into developing this technology. It's designed to optimize biological systems at the cellular level. Okay. Enhancing strength, intelligence, healing rate, even emotional stability. Jake whistled appreciatively. That's incredible. So what's the malfunction? Zena's proud expression faltered. The field is working perfectly. Too perfectly. It's responding to stimuli we never programmed it for. She turned to face him directly, and Jake could see worry and something else in her amber eyes. Jake, the field activates whenever I'm near humans. Specifically, it responds most strongly to human males. The biological enhancements it triggers in me are becoming impossible to hide. Before Jake could ask what she meant, an alarm chimed softly from one of the monitoring stations. Zena's eyes widened as she looked at the display. It's happening again, she whispered. Jake, you need to understand. The field isn't malfunctioning. It's working exactly as designed, but it's interpreting your presence as a catalyst for enhancement. And every moment you're here, the effects grow stronger, as if to prove her point. Jake noticed the liquid starlight in the central chamber beginning to pulse with increasing intensity. Its glow synchronized with what sounded suspiciously like a heartbeat. Jake stared at the pulsing quantum field, then back at Zena, trying to process what she'd just told him. So you're saying this thing thinks I'm some kind of biological trigger? More than that, Zena said, her voice barely above a whisper. She moved to a control console, her movements careful and measured. The field doesn't just activate in response to human males, specifically calibrated to what it perceives as genetic compatibility. Jake, it's trying to optimize me for bonding with you. The implications of that statement hit Jake like a meteor strike. Bonding, as in the field is enhancing every aspect of my biology that would make me attractive to human physiology, Zena finished, her amber eyes meeting his. Pheromone production, physical appearance, even my emotional responses. It's rewriting my cellular structure to create the perfect biological match. Jake ran a hand through his dark hair, a gesture Zena found herself watching with fascination. Doc, that's either the most romantic thing I've ever heard, or the most terrifying. I'm not sure which. Both, Zena admitted. Jake, I need you to understand something. These aren't artificial feelings the field is creating. It's amplifying what's already there, removing biological barriers that normally exist between species. What I'm experiencing right now, this attraction, it's completely genuine. The monitoring equipment around them hummed with increasing intensity, and Jake noticed the temperature in the room seemed to be rising. How long can you safely maintain exposure to the field? That's the problem. I can't leave this laboratory. The moment I step outside, the enhanced pheromones I'm producing affect every human on the station. 3 days ago, I caused 2 separate diplomatic incidents just by walking through the cafeteria. Zena's laugh had a bitter edge. I've been living in here ever since, trying to find a way to reverse the process. Jake stepped closer to the central chamber, studying the swirling energy patterns. What if we don't reverse it? What if we modify the field parameters instead? Modify them. How? But even as Zena asked, she found herself moving closer to where Jake stood, drawn by an impulse she couldn't entirely control. Well, if the field is designed to create biological compatibility, maybe we can program it to create emotional compatibility. 2. Balance the enhancements so they affect both participants equally. Jake turned to face her, and Zena felt her breath catch at the intensity in his brown eyes. If you're willing to trust me with some pretty advanced modifications, that could be incredibly dangerous. If we get the calibrations wrong, ... then we'll figure it out together. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted to. When she didn't, his fingers brushed against her hand. The contact sent a visible pulse through the quantum field, and both of them felt something shift in the air around them. Field is responding to physical contact, Zena breathed, her scientific mind automatically cataloging the changes even as her enhanced biology reacted to Jake's touch. Jake, your neurological patterns are actually stabilizing the quantum fluctuations. That good or bad? I don't know yet. But Zena didn't pull her hand away. Instead, she found herself intertwining her fingers with his, watching in fascination as the chaotic energy patterns in the chamber began organizing themselves into beautiful, symmetrical spirals. Jake felt something he'd never experienced before, a sense of completion that went beyond physical attraction. Xena, whatever this field is doing, it's not just affecting you. I can feel it too. That should be impossible. The field is calibrated specifically for Xerian biology. Maybe, Jake said, stepping closer until they were only inches apart. Or maybe compatibility works both ways. He lifted his free hand to touch her face, marveling at how natural the gesture felt. Xena, I need you to know something. Field or no field, enhanced biology or natural attraction, I'm glad I answered your distress call. Jake, ... double quotes. Xena's amber eyes searched his face. What we're feeling, it's happening so fast. How do we know what's real? Does it matter? Jake asked softly. I mean, if the field is amplifying something that was already there, if it's removing barriers that were keeping us apart anyway, does it really matter how it started? Before Xena could answer, an urgent alarm began sounding throughout the laboratory. Red lights flashed as a holographic display materialized, showing a large military vessel approaching the station. Dominion patrol ship, Xena said, her voice tight with fear. They're not supposed to know this station exists. Jake's expression hardened. How long before they dock? 20 minutes, maybe less. Xena was already moving to her research terminals, her fingers flying over the controls. Jake, I have to destroy the research. If the Dominion gets their hands on this technology. Wait, Jake caught her wrist gently. What if we don't have to destroy it? What if we can hide it? Hide a quantum field generator? Jake, it's the size of a small building. Jake grinned, and Xena felt her enhanced biology respond to his confidence in ways that made her knees weak. Doc, you've obviously never seen what a good engineer can do with the right motivation. And right now, I'm very motivated to keep you safe. As the Dominion ship grew larger on their screens, Jake pulled Xena closer, their enhanced connection, making both of them stronger and more determined than either could have been alone. The Dominion boarding party arrived with military precision that made Jake's teeth ache. He watched armed soldiers in gleaming white armor march through Nexus 7's corridors, their weapons powered and ready. Leading them was a figure that made Xena go pale. Agent Krex, she whispered, her hand instinctively finding Jake's. He's Dominion intelligence. If he's here personally, they know exactly what we're working on. Agent Krex was a Vorthok, one of the insectoid species that served as the Dominion's enforcement arm. Even through the grainy surveillance feed, Jake could see the methodical way the agent's compound eyes scanned every detail of the station, cataloging potential threats and escape routes. How much time do we need to hide the quantum field? Jake asked, his engineer's mind already working through possibilities. It's not just the field, Xena said desperately. Jake, there are 37 researchers on this station. If the Dominion thinks we're developing biological weapons, they'll arrest everyone. Some of these people have families. Jake studied the quantum chamber, its liquid starlight still pulsing in response to their proximity. An idea began forming. Dangerous but possible. What if we don't hide the technology? What if we make it look like something completely different? I don't understand. The field responds to our biological signatures, right? What if we program it to look like a medical device instead of an enhancement system? Make it appear to be treating some kind of genetic incompatibility between humans and Xerians. Xena's amber eyes widened as she grasped the implications. A medical cover story. But Jake, that would mean we'd have to maintain the fiction that we're actually patients, that we're here because we need treatment. Would that be so hard to believe? Jake asked, moving closer to her as footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. A human engineer and a Xerian scientist who developed an attraction that's biologically impossible without a technological intervention. The surveillance feed showed Agent Krex stopping directly outside their laboratory door. Dr. Caliph, voice came through the intercom with mechanical precision. Please open your laboratory. We have questions about your research. Xena looked at Jake, decision crystallizing in her enhanced features. Do you trust me? Completely then. Kiss me. Right now, while I reprogram the field parameters. Jake didn't need to be asked twice. As Zena's fingers flew over the quantum field controls, he pulled her against him and kissed her with all the passion that had been building between them since the moment they met. The effect on the quantum chamber was immediate and dramatic, instead of the complex enhancement patterns it had been displaying. The field simplified into what looked unmistakably like medical stabilization waves. The laboratory door slid open. Just as they broke apart, both of them breathing hard and looking appropriately flustered for patients caught in an intimate moment, Agent Krex entered with 2 soldiers flanking him, his compound eyes immediately focusing on the quantum chamber. "Dr. Callith, you will explain the nature of your research immediately." "It's medical treatment," Zena said, her voice steady, despite the circumstances. "Captain Morrison and I suffer from cross-species biological incompatibility syndrome. But the quantum field stabilization, our physiologies would reject each other at the cellular level." Jake played his part perfectly, wrapping a protective arm around Zena's waist. "Look, Agent, I don't know what you think is going on here, but this is a private medical matter. We're not exactly thrilled about having to announce our relationship to the galaxy." Agent Krex's mechanical voice carried a note of suspicion. "Cross-species compatibility treatment is highly regulated. You should be receiving this care at an approved medical facility. Would you advertise that you needed technological help? To be intimate with someone?" Zena asked, letting embarrassment color her tone. "We came here because Dr. Vex assured us of complete discretion." The mention of Dr. Vex made Agent Krex pause. Jake noticed the slight hesitation and pressed their advantage. "If you need medical records to verify our condition, I'm sure Dr. Khalith can provide them. But I'd appreciate it if this didn't become public knowledge. I've got a reputation to maintain in the shipping lanes." "Medical records," Agent Krex demanded, extending one clawed hand. Zena moved to her computer terminal, and Jake held his breath as she called up files he hoped she was creating in real time. "Here's Captain Morrison's compatibility assessment and mine. As you can see, without the quantum field treatments, our biological systems are completely incompatible." Agent Krex studied the data for what felt like an eternity. Finally, he looked up from the display. "These readings indicate that your treatment has been successful. The biological barriers between your species have been effectively neutralized." "Yes," Zena said carefully. "We're hoping to complete the final phase of treatment within the next few days. Then you will complete it elsewhere. This facility is being closed pending investigation of unauthorized research activities. You have 1 hour to conclude your medical procedures and leave." As Agent Krex and his soldiers left, Jake felt Zena sag against him with relief. "That was incredible thinking," he whispered in her ear. "But did you actually create those medical records, or were they already in the system?" Zena's amber eyes met his with an expression that was part relief, part mischief, and part something deeper. "Jake, what if I told you that everything we just told Agent Krex was actually true? That we really do have cross-species compatibility? Issues that the quantum field has been solving?" Before Jake could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. On the surveillance feeds, they could see Agent Krex receiving an urgent communication that made his compound eyes widen with apparent shock. "Something's wrong," Zena said. "Jake, I think we may have just made this situation much worse." The urgent communication Agent Krex received came from an unexpected source, Dr. Knox, Zena's research partner and the one person on Nexus 7 she'd trusted completely. Jake watched through the surveillance feeds as the tall, ethereal Zarian approached, Agent Krex with what appeared to be a datapad full of information.
"Oh,"
Zena whispered, her enhanced biology making her emotional distress physically visible as her skin shifted to a paler shade of blue. Knox wouldn't betray the project. "Been working on this research for 3 years. But the evidence was undeniable." On the screen, you could see Dr. Knox gesturing toward their laboratory, while Agent Krex's compound eyes focused intently on whatever information he was being given. "Zena," Jake said urgently, "we need to assume the worst. If your partner knows the real nature of your research, our medical cover story just became worthless." "Worse than that?" Zena said, her fingers flying over her control panels. Nox knows about the compatibility protocols I've been developing. Jake, if the Dominion gets that information, they could use it to create biological weapons that target specific species interactions. The implications hit Jake like a physical blow. It could destroy interspecies relationships throughout the galaxy, or control them completely. Xena's amber eyes were bright with unshed tears as she began initiating what looked like a data purge sequence. Jake, I have to destroy everything, even if it means losing years of research that could help people. Wait. Jake caught her hands, stilling them on the controls. What if we don't destroy the research? What if we steal it? Steal it? Jake, the quantum field generator weighs several tons and requires a dedicated power source. Can't exactly smuggle it out in your cargo hold. The field generator? No. But the research data, the protocols, the theoretical framework, all of that could fit on a standard storage crystal, right? Before Xena could answer, their laboratory door burst open again. This time it wasn't Agent Krex who entered, but Dr. Nox himself, flanked by 2 Dominion soldiers. Xena, Nox said, his voice carrying what sounded like genuine regret. I'm sorry it had to come to this. Why? The single word came out broken, and Jake felt his protective instincts surge in response to Xena's pain. Nox, we were going to change everything. Help people overcome biological barriers to love and understanding. Why would you give that to the Dominion? Dr. Nox's pale features shifted with what might have been shame, because the Dominion already knew. Xena, they've been monitoring our research for months. Agent Krex gave me a choice: cooperate and receive clemency, or watch as they arrested not just us, but our families as well. Jake stepped forward, placing himself slightly between Xena and the soldiers. So you chose to save yourself by selling out your best friend. I chose to save lives, Nox snapped. Xena, you don't understand what the Dominion plans to do with your compatibility research. They want to create forced bonding protocols, ways to ensure absolute loyalty between different species. What we develop to promote love, they'll use. To create slavery, then we make sure they don't get it, Jake said firmly. His hand found Xena's, and immediately the quantum field began responding to their contact. It's pulsing, intensifying. Agent Krex's voice crackled through the laboratory's communication system. Dr. Kalith, you will transfer all research data to Dominion custody immediately, or we will begin arresting station personnel, starting with the families of those who resist. Xena looked at Jake, her enhanced biology making her emotions clearly visible in the golden glow of her eyes. Jake, I can't let innocent people suffer because of my research. I can't let you sacrifice yourself for people who've already chosen to betray you. Jake's voice was gentle but determined. Xena, what if there was a third option? What do you mean? Jake glanced at the quantum field chamber. Its liquid starlight now pulsing in perfect synchronization with their heartbeats. The field responds to our compatibility, right? Our biological and emotional connection. What if we use that connection to overload the system? Overload it how? By giving it exactly what it was designed to create. Perfect compatibility between 2 people who choose to trust each other completely. Jake's brown eyes met her amber ones. Xena, if we let the field enhance our connection to its maximum potential, if we open ourselves to it completely, the energy release might be enough to destroy the entire laboratory. Dr. Nox stepped forward urgently. Xena, that could kill you both. The quantum field wasn't designed to handle that kind of feedback loop. Maybe, Jake said, never taking his eyes off Xena. But it's our choice to make, not the Dominion's. Not yours. Ours. Agent Krex's voice came through the intercom again, more urgent this time.
Dr. Kalith.
You have 60 seconds to begin data transfer. Xena looked at Jake, at the quantum field chamber, at Dr. Nox, and the soldiers, and finally, back at Jake. If we do this, there's no going back. The field enhancement will be permanent. We'll be bonded at the quantum level. Is that supposed to scare me? Jake asked softly. Xena, I've been falling for you since the moment I walked into this laboratory. Field or no field, enhancement or natural attraction, I want to spend whatever time I have left making sure you know how incredible you are. Tears spilled down Xena's cheeks as she made her choice. Together then. Whatever happens, we face it. Together. As alarms blared around them and Agent Krex demanded immediate compliance, Jake and Xena moved toward the quantum field chamber, their hands clasped tightly together, ready to risk everything for love. The moment Jake and Xena stepped into the quantum field chamber together, out the liquid starlight around them erupted into patterns of impossible beauty. The field, designed to create compatibility between species, suddenly found itself with two willing participants whose emotional connection had already transcended biological barriers. Warning: quantum cascade beginning. The laboratory's computer announced in a voice that somehow managed to sound both mechanical and awestruck. Field parameters exceeding all safety protocols. Agent Krex's compound eyes widened as he watched, the displays showing energy readings climbing into ranges that should have been impossible. Stop this immediately. You're destabilizing the entire station. But Jake and Xena were beyond hearing threats now. As the quantum field wrapped around them, they felt their consciousness expanding, their awareness of each other deepening beyond anything either had thought possible. Jake could feel Xena's brilliant mind working through equations and possibilities at light speed, while Xena experienced Jake's unwavering determination and protective love as a warm golden presence in her thoughts. "It's not destroying us, Xena," whispered in amazement as energy cascaded around them like a waterfall of stars. "Jake, the field isn't overloading. It's evolving." "What do you mean?" But even as Jake asked, he began to understand. The quantum field wasn't creating their compatibility. It was learning from it. Dr. Knox stared at the readings in disbelief. The field is rewriting its own programming. It's using their connection as a template to create something entirely new. New how? Agent Krex demanded, but his mechanical voice carried a note of fear now. "It's becoming self-sustaining," Xena said, her voice carrying clearly despite the energy storm surrounding her and Jake. "The field is encoding our compatibility pattern as its base protocol. Agent Krex, you wanted our research? Here it is, in its final form." The quantum field suddenly expanded beyond the laboratory's containment systems. But instead of destroying the station as everyone expected, it began creating zones of enhanced understanding between different species throughout Nexus 7. Humans and Xerians who had never been able to communicate effectively suddenly found themselves sharing thoughts and emotions. Vorthox and other insectoid species discovered they could empathize with mammalian viewpoints. "Impossible," Agent Krex said, his compound eyes tracking the field's expansion. "Cross-species neural compatibility cannot be achieved on this scale." "Can, if love is the catalyst," Jake said, stepping out of the quantum chamber with Xena's hand still clasped in his. They were both glowing with residual energy, but more than that, they radiated a sense of completion that was visible to everyone. In the room, Agent Krex raised his weapon, but hesitated as the quantum field's influence reached him. For the first time in his military career, he found himself understanding the emotional motivations of the mammals he was threatening. The concept of love, which had always seemed like a tactical weakness to his species, suddenly revealed itself as the most powerful force in the galaxy. "You cannot be allowed to leave with this technology," he said, but his mechanical voice lacked its earlier conviction. "We're not taking the technology anywhere," Xena said gently. "Agent Krex, don't you see? The field isn't a weapon or a tool anymore. It's become a bridge between species, a way for different forms of life to understand each other at the deepest level." Dr. Knox approached cautiously, his pale features showing wonder instead of fear. "Xena, the quantum patterns are stabilizing across the entire station. Everyone here, regardless of species, is experiencing enhanced empathy and understanding. The Dominion will shut this down immediately," Agent Krex said, but he lowered his weapon. "Will they?" Jake asked. "Agent Krex, right now you're feeling what we feel. You understand why we made the choices we did. Do you really want to destroy something that brings different species together instead of driving them apart?" Agent Krex was quiet for a long moment, his compound eyes reflecting the soft glow still emanating from the quantum field. "I have orders. You have a choice," Xena said softly. The same choice we all have: fear and control, or understanding and growth. The station-wide intercom crackled to life with reports from throughout Nexus 7. Research teams that had been working in isolation were suddenly collaborating across species lines. Diplomatic disputes that had seemed unsolvable were being resolved through genuine empathy and understanding. "This is unprecedented," Dr. Knox breathed. "Xena, what you and Jake have created here could change the entire galaxy." Agent Krex finally made his decision. "I will report that the research was destroyed in an accidental cascade failure. The station will be evacuated, but the personnel will be released without charges." Jake felt Xena's hand squeeze tightly, and the quantum field will be classified as a natural phenomenon requiring further study, Agent Krex said, his tone suggesting this was the closest thing to mercy his position would allow. Long-term study by qualified researchers who understand its peaceful applications. As the Dominion forces began their withdrawal, Jake pulled Xena close, marveling at how perfectly she fit against him. "So what happens now? Do we stay and continue the research?" Xena smiled, her amber eyes bright with possibility. "Actually, I was thinking we might take your ship and see how the quantum field's effects spread to other systems. Someone should document the changes, make sure they're used to bring people together instead of driving them apart. A galaxy-spanning research mission with the woman I love." Jake grinned. "Doc, that sounds like the best assignment I've ever had." As they watched the quantum field's gentle light spread through Nexus 7's corridors, bringing understanding and connection to beings who had never imagined they could truly know each other, Jake and Xena knew they had created something far greater than either of them could have achieved alone. Their love had become a bridge between worlds. Together, they would help build a galaxy where no one had to face the universe alone. The Quantum Heart Protocol was complete, and its message was spreading among the stars. Love, in all its forms, was the most powerful force in the universe.